So, folks, there is historically a group called ALEC, the American Legislative Executive Council, right? And this group is like is kind of like a think tank of corporations that write legislation for politicians, right? And it's pretty funny because sometimes politicians in the past have forgotten to like remove letterhead from ALEC, right? It's and then they introduce it on the congressional floor. It's embarrassing. And well, it seems like we have another case of that. And specifically, it's coming courtesy of one Paragon Health Institute, a group that is dedicated to trying to get politicians and lobbying politicians to cut Medicaid. And well, wouldn't you know it, Hardliner's Medicaid letter has ties to GOP think tank. Now, when you think when you see that headline, you're like, it has ties to a think tank. What does that mean? Like the think tank lobbied for these guys to like write a letter, and like, okay, that seems like something that probably happens in Congress a lot. Except that it's worse than that. Digital metadata indicates that the letter was authored by the president of the Paragon Health Institute. So like they literally just got a letter sent to them, and this is Chip Roy, who's been circulating this letter, and he got 20 other Republicans to sign it, and it was written by a think tank president. So just to go over this real quick from Politico. The digital metadata embedded by the PDF circulated by Representative Chip Roy of Texas lists the author as Brian Blaze, the president of the Paragon Health Institute. And yeah, he's one of those Trump guys. He's one of those Trump guys who was in Trump's inner circle in like 2016, and he hasn't gone back into the administration and is instead lobbying for a conservative group. Okay, Blaze with an S, Blasey, I don't know, whatever. But basically, people like Charles Koch have lavished $1 million donations onto the group. It's basically there to further the billionaire Republican agenda. And they are certainly trying to do that by pushing for cuts to Medicaid. And this is like the big thing for like the next, several months, 4 months. You're going to hear nothing but Republicans hemming and hawing about cutting Medicaid and Medicare because, frankly, they all know it's a bad idea. Like, they all know it is political suicide. Not the first link between Paragon and Roy. Oh, do tell, Paladin Lost. What is this? Chip Roy, Medicaid up $1.2 trillion under Biden. It's driving the inflation tax, piling up debt as we allow progressive Democrats to use it to fund illegals and run scams, favoring able-bodied over vulnerable folks. With $1 trillion in improper payments, bankrolling blue state budgets. And just real quick, blue states aren't bankrolled by the federal government. Blue states bankroll red states. That's blue states subsidize red states, conservative states. Also, Medicaid doesn't drive up the inflation tax. And Democrats aren't using it to fund illegals or run scams to favor able-bodied folks. Basically, what he's trying to say is that because of Medicaid, people who would otherwise be forced to work through their disabilities, despite the pain and suffering it causes them, can now take it slightly easier. Instead of working 2 jobs, they can work 1. Like just that it's like that. It's not like a super scammable system. And hey, wouldn't you know? Look who quote tweeted that. Thank you for showcasing our important work, Congressman Chip Roy of Texas. Wow. Paragon Health Institute. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, so you guys literally just tell him what to say like he's a goddamn puppet. It's crazy. Republicans really have no shame when it comes to this. Like, whatsoever. Oh, Paragon also wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today. This is probably part of like their Oh, look at that. Look who wrote that. Brian Blaze and Paul Winfrey. That's that's wild. Wall Street Journal opinion section. Yeah, the politics of Medicaid reform. If Republicans are too timid, costs will expand and Democrats will benefit at the ballot box. Yeah, if Republicans don't wildly slash Medicaid, Democrats are definitely going to capitalize on the fact that Medicaid stays as it is? Question mark. Because here's the thing. If Republicans do cut Medicaid, Democrats are going to benefit at the ballot box exponentially more. Like, this is the reason Republicans don't touch Medicaid is very specifically because they know it will effectively end the Republican Party. The Republican Party will not continue to exist if things like Social Security or Medicaid get cut. They just won't exist because people aren't going to vote for the party that killed their grandma. They're just not. People aren't going to vote for the party that denied their long COVID having spouse medical care under Medicaid and they had to watch them die. They're not going to vote for that. Paul Winfrey is from the Economic Policy Institute Center. It's just a similar Koch Industries boutique bullshit tank. Yeah. It's where the sheer number of these are just to evade 990 rules and create market confusion so you don't know these are all the same assholes. It'd be really nice if any of these outlets really pointed out at the top that these people are paid lobbyists whose job it is on the behest of billionaires to undermine your life as a working class person, yeah. But they already voted for that. They happily wanted people to die during COVID and voted for Trump again. Yeah, but there's a difference, I think, which is that the people who are going to die are Republicans. There's a difference here in the sense that sure, predominantly a lot of Republicans died during COVID because they didn't wear masks or get vaccinated, and we're busy taking hydroxychloroquine, right? But the difference here is that these people don't know stuff about epidemiology. People generally don't, right? They do know that Social Security keeps them alive. They do know that Social Security is what pays to keep Mima in the retirement home. They do know that Medicaid is the only reason they were able to get better. They do know that, hey, I rely on Medicaid to not lose my home. They know that stuff. And so, and they are not going to be spared, as opposed to you carve out in your head, oh, I'm going to have a special exemption because I'm a special boy. I'm a good Republican, They know that if that program gets cut, they're not going to keep receiving those checks that keep them alive. They stood behind the idea that grandma and grandpa had to die for the economy. Most people didn't. Again, the issue here is that a lot of people, over and over again, and we're seeing a lot of this over and over again, people thought, oh, his policies are only going to affect the bad people. They're not going to affect me. I pay my taxes. I'm good, unlike all of them. And the thing is, That's not a sustainable idea when the suffering they have planned hits everybody. It's just not, you know? Here's from the Mississippi Free Press. Mississippi leaders hopeful Trump will approve FEMA aid for tornado-ravaged communities despite a month-long wait. We're in regular communication with the White House, and I'm hopeful that our declaration gets approved soon, Reeves told Mississippi Free Press reporter Heather Harrison. He added that it's not unusual for the government to take up to 45 days to review and authorize such a request. More than 900 Mississippi homes suffered damage during severe storms on March 14th and 15th, which conjured 18 tornadoes across the state and displaced over 200 residents. Yeah. Let's see. When an especially disastrous tornado struck the Mississippi communities of Rolling Fork and Silver City on March 24th, 2023, causing around $100 million in damage, Reeves swiftly requested a major disaster declaration, and President Joe Biden approved it within 2 days of the storm. You know, we're a month out from this, you know? And, like, you can say, oh, you get what you voted for. Sure. But I do think a lot of these people, again, they have that, empathy event horizon. They don't really care until it affects them. And the thing about Medicaid and Social Security is it's going to affect them. And they know that. There is a definite cause and a definite effect. And all I'm saying is, they're not stupid. They can see cause effect, especially when it's in, like, terms that they understand. That's all I'm saying. Additionally, here's another story. A Maryland town backed Trump's cost-cutting pledge. Now it's a target. And this is a story about a small town in Maryland that is like the hub for training firefighters. Let's see. I'm probably going to get shot for this, but he's doing what he said he was going to do, said Davis, who serves as the mayor of the town of about 3,000 in western Maryland, just south of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. In March, the Trump administration suddenly canceled in-person classes at the National Fire Academy here, which trains the United States firefighters. Not only is the academy a big part of Emmitsburg's identity, but it also helps drive the local economy. Davis says the administration is reviewing the academy's operations, and he's hopeful that it will restore classes. If not, he says he'll see the administration somewhat differently. It'll change my outlook on what they say they're not, to say that they're not being fair, says Davis, who also serves as emergency medical services captain at the local firehouse, known as the Vigilant House Company. They're just going in to cut and not caring about what they cut. And, like, yeah, you voted for that, asshole. You absolutely voted for that. But understand, in their calculations, when they made that vote, they're saying, oh, it's going to affect the bad people. It's not going to affect me. They're not going to be crazy and just, like, cut everything. They're just going to cut, the fat of, like, administration stuff. And, like, we don't need that many bureaucrats. What is Fox News and Twitter saying? I put 99% they're blaming Joe Biden for this, and they're never going to learn. The issue is that only goes so far. It only goes so far. You can see his poll numbers tanking, even among some of his diehard supporters. It used to be back in, like, 2016 that Donald Trump had an approval rating of around, like, 80, 90% from Republicans. And, on some of these issues, that has slipped down into the 60s. And when we look at what is going to happen when it comes to these tariffs, my assessment is that it is going to push that number way down when it comes to a lot of other categories as well. That's too damn high. Again, they only care when it affects them. And also, like, when we're talking about, like, Republicans that live in, like, poverty, they already think that no one gives a damn about them anyway. And, like, Donald Trump at least pretends to care about them. Like, they already are like, everyone hates us anyway, fuck them all. And they're happy to watch the entire thing burn. But even they are affected when the economy goes tits up. And at some point, they're going to be like, oh, wait, did we just detonate an economic nuclear bomb that we can't, like, fix? really easily. And you know, they're going to realize it eventually, and they're going to realize, oh wait, this isn't Joe Biden. So all I'm trying to put out there is that they might be wrong. They just don't know it yet. You know? They have a blind devotion to a personality. And once holes start getting poked into that devotion, it's going to rapidly come apart, because it's all just being held together with spit and hope at this point. You know? He's offering his constituents nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. And I think that is only going to become more clear as time goes on. So that's my calculation. That's all I'm saying. And I think it's pretty funny that Chip Roy got caught trying to say that he wrote he wrote this letter when in fact it was written for him by a goddamn lobbying buffoon. And you know, all these people in office are just dumb as shit. It's why Donald Trump can, like, get into the office in the first place, because we've just become, as a country, more and more accustomed to lazy buffoons reading propaganda written for them by billionaires. As my house rep, hey, maybe you can call him up and ask why he was reading something that was written for him by a lobbyist. Maybe call him up and leave a message about that.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and switching streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, daily, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard.